you a break after this one, though. Responders.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So before we have our cookies, you have a proclamation to make.
Yes. John, you guys want to come up to the mic and I'll read it here?
Good evening. Thanks for having us
Good
today.
evening.
Hi, haven't seen you in a long time.
I have a proclamation of the Flagler Beach City Commission recognizing November 14th, 2020 as World Diabetes Day and November 2020 as Diabetes Awareness Month. Whereas the American Diabetes Association estimates that nearly 34 million people in the United States are afflicted and or affected by diabetes, and another 88 million are still at risk for developing prediabetes. And whereas having diabetes elevates the risk of heart disease, amputation, kidney failure, and blindness, causing serious hardships for families across not only our county, but across our state and nation. And whereas diabetes screenings and self-management education will help individuals in the recognition of the symptoms of diabetes and provides an opportunity to follow suggestions for living a quality lifestyle. And whereas the International Diabetes Federation has established November 14th, 2020 as World Diabetes Day to educate citizens on ways to predict if someone is at risk for the disease, to help recognize the symptoms of diabetes, and to follow suggestions for living a quality lifestyle while they endure the affliction. And where Flagler Beach and Advent Health Palm Coast together recognize that the growing number of diabetics in our community make a strong case for devoting more resources to helping to find a cure, provide screenings, education, and support in the required lifestyle changes. And whereas Advent Health Foundation Palm Coast has formed the Diabetes Alliance, this alliance represents Flagler County Schools, Flagler County Health Department, Flagler County Free Clinic, Flagler County EMT teams, and many corporate and private citizens that are all dedicated to beating diabetes. And whereas the Alliance will kick off November diabetes awareness efforts in Flagler Beach by flying the Alliance flag, distributing diabetes resource bags, lighting up the town blue, and a logo campaign throughout the city to continue efforts to raise awareness and educate our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler Beach City Commission that they hereby recognize November 14th, 2020 as World Diabetes Day and proclaim November 2020 as Diabetes Awareness Month in Flagler Beach to increase community awareness of the risk factors and symptoms related to diabetes in order to improve the likelihood that people with diabetes will seek medical attention to avoid the devastating complications of this disease. Adopted this 12th day of November 2020.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us the time to, one, get the proclamation, provide the exposure for diabetes. I'm John Subers. I'm the director of the Advent Health Palm Coast Foundation. And we stand up here in front of you a couple times a year promoting our health care and awareness for a lot of different things for the community health. Diabetes is big in our community. As the proclamation said, we have done a community health assessment, and diabetes was one of the top 5 that our hospital and our community is attacking and trying to educate and treat. The partners that we have for the Diabetes Alliance that were mentioned there, the real impact, and those are from the health department, the free clinic, and all the community groups are the ones that are really touching the patients and making a difference. The Diabetes Alliance is an organization that we have formed, but it's the members of that organization, and Commissioner Bellhumer is a big, big part of it. He's got a passion on diabetes and really a strong voice with our Diabetes Alliance, and I thank you for your support and voice, Commissioner. We rose the flag the November 1st. on a windy afternoon, and it's still up there. And the Flagler Beach is just a great partner of ours in helping get this message out. So I want to introduce, not that she needs introduction, Laura Gilberry with Intercoastal Bank and part of our foundation board that really is the driving force between the Diabetes Alliance that his several years ago was just an idea. And I tell you, the number of people that we are impacting through all of the avenues is pretty substantial. It's important and very nice and rewarding. So Laura?
That's a tough act to follow. John kind of said everything I wanted to say. So thank you so very much. The city of Flagler Beach has been on board with us and an ally since the very beginning, since this was a thought. Thank you for Rick's passion around this. We are so incredibly humbly grateful to fly the flag out here. 14% of our county is afflicted by this, and that's who knows that they are. And so I think continuing to educate our citizens, the fact that our county now has diabetes prevention program in place where you can go in and be educated ahead of time is a huge step in the right direction. So if your doctor gives you some type of an analysis that you might be at risk, you now have a resource here in our community. So we are continuing to move this forward one step at a time, even during a pandemic virus. And very grateful for that because clearly diabetics are also very highly at risk at this time. So thank you so much to the city of Flagler Beach. We have a photo from the flag raising that we would like to present and would humbly ask if we could have a photo with the commission.
Sure, you guys want to come up here?
Hey, Laura, how many years has the Alliance been together now?
I would say 5 years, Rick, in place at this point, 5 years.
Yes,
Mhm.
and every year it's grown stronger. And the health department and the free clinic have just been over the top. And, you know, the hospital as well, obviously. Yeah, we've made some advances, and we can keep going forward and make the group larger.
Absolutely. Well, every year we have added allies who have continued to, gain momentum, to your point. So if anybody would like to get involved, we are, open arms. We are learning together how to build this amongst our community. So all ideas are completely welcome. And on Saturday, we do have a free event in Town Center at 3 p.m. It is being put on by Empower Fitness, the Diabetes Alliance Hot Yoga Lounge. And it is to get your body moving and be the healthiest version of you and kind of kickstart something. So we would encourage everybody, as the weather will be nicer then than it was this morning. And would love to have you join us. I'm sorry, and it is World Diabetes Day that day. and November 14th, the significance of World Diabetes Day is actually the birthday of the doctor who invented insulin. And so that is the significance of that particular day and why he is honored. And just food for thought, he sold insulin for $1 to the pharmaceutical companies so that it would be that actual formula, so that it would remain affordable to anyone who needed that life-giving drug. And unfortunately today, the pharmaceutical companies. So in your roles, you can help impact change and help us drive petitions to make change in the cost of, life-saving insulin. It is a huge issue, but that is the significance of that day. And he did an amazing thing by giving it for $1, which greatly has been taken advantage of. So,
Wow.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate what you're doing. Diabetes runs in my family. My dad, he discovered that he had diabetes in his 70s. He ultimately lost his kidneys, went on dialysis, and ultimately died from it. So really appreciate everything you guys are doing, and Rick, and I'm new on the commission, but anything I can do to help would certainly be there to help you. So thank you very much.
so appreciate your comments and sorry that it impacted
But,
your family that way.
Get in on it early, and diet and exercise is important.
It
Yes.
completely is. Thank you.
Knowing you have it
Yeah.
Yes.
is the important part.
Officer. Thanks, Laura.
Everybody smile.
Yeah, right? Oh, you can't see my face when I do that. There we go. Thank you for the good one.
Don't sit up.
I moved your seat back a little.
You can tell I leaned to you, was
Miss it.
Okay.
The next item is deletions and changes to the agenda. I believe that number 9 and 11 and 12 have been pulled. If anybody's here for those reasons and don't wish to stay, then we'll understand. But we will not be hearing those 3 items tonight. And did anybody else want to pull anything? Okay. The next item is Mr. Hadid catching us up on the beach restoration project.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, and Commissioners, and staff of the city. I have a couple of good news things in the way of funding. You know that we have a number of agreements that we're still securing in order to complete all of our work, not just the Army Corps, but all of the work we're doing in Flagler Beach. And we are now in the process of signing our agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to allow us to do the restoration of the Gamble Rogers State Park. They are providing us $3.8 million to do that, so they'll fully fund that activity, and that obviously include use of the offshore sand as well. And perhaps even more importantly is I think you will recognize as stewards of municipal finances, they're willing to advance pay us. Typically, as you know, these projects are on a reimbursement basis. And so you have to expend the money, then they reimburse you. That really strains our ability with all these multi-million-dollar projects to do that. So a real shout out to FDEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, for allowing us to pursue the project and front-ending the expense so that we don't have to borrow funds or, mess up the way we're accounting for current obligations where they're going to be reimbursed. So that's a very good thing. Now there's another agreement that really I can't do anything about. I don't want to overstep any bounds. I've mentioned it before. It was something that was worked on before, but we need to sort of like elevate it because we want to put all the pieces together so that when we go forward, we can really go forward. And that is the FDOT agreement proposed with the city on the annual maintenance. The rough terms of that previously, and I'm just saying rough terms, I'm not trying to define anything, was I think there was a tentative, they were going to give you, the city, at least $500,000 a year in order to, and they're going to put it in the regular programmed budget so that you get it. You remember that's a very important element. There's all these particularities of these different agencies as to how you secure your funding. So obviously I can't go and talk to DOT on your behalf, but I'm willing to assist. We are willing to assist you in any way to do that because it's important to the accomplishment of the project. So I don't know how you want to do it. I'm not asking for a formal decision. I don't know what your means and methods are, but you let us know. And I don't want to have this as a working afterthought. We're underway and we're scrambling to get something in. So I would like to kind of close the chapter on that agreement. So my work list is reduced. I have a pretty big work list, as you all know.
Before you go on out, Penny or Rick, do we have some sort of start to that, or?
I have to look through Larry's email and talk maybe to Liz if she has something more about it.
Okay, and I remember all the discussions about
Yeah.
it, but.
We just need a point person or a team that can meet with, frankly, with FDOT to hammer out the terms. And as I said, we're ready, willing, and able to assist. That includes, obviously, me, includes the county engineer, if we need that perspective, if that would be helpful, and anyone else, actually, that you might need from the county to help you. You may not need us at all. That's not my point here, but I want to make sure you know that I think it's important. Can't let it fall by the wayside. And if requested, we will be glad to help. Okay?
Maybe we can discuss that a little bit during commission comments.
Okay.
Okay, so now as to the easements, good news on that front a little bit, not all 100% best.
I'm
sorry?
I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but
That's
as
quite all
long
right.
as you're talking FDOT, they also promised us when they decided to put a seawall at the north end of town, that they would keep sand, they would keep it buried. And you had talked about the end of the project going north, stopping where the seawall starts. So has there been any thoughts on, or any discussions with FDOT about dredging sand in and on top of, up to and on top of the exposed seawall?
Yes, but the specifics have not been worked out. What we have said is that the offshore site and that whole apparatus that we're using, that whole plan of how we're going to get it to the beach and move it on the beach, that would be something that they could avail themselves of. But the specifics of that have not been determined. Now, remember, we're in a phased project. So typically, the first phase is going to get all of the minutia resolved before you go to the succeeding stages. Although that doesn't mean you only discuss the first phase, you're really discussing them all at the same time and figuring out your critical path. How do you go from one to the other? So that's on the list. But remember, we're going to do the Army Corps first. Then we're going to do the non-federal. That'll take us up to, I think, and I'm sorry, I don't.
18th.
North 19, is it 18th?
Between 18th and 19th.
Okay, between
actually,
18th
where
and
the seawall
19th.
starts.
Okay, then obviously the seawall. Remember, our plan of action, which is very efficient, is that we want the project to be continuous. You know, you start the project at one end and you just keep going until you finish. So you got everybody mobilized. It reduces your expense, your mobilization expense. The more you can keep that down, the more money you have to keep building your bridge, your dunes. Your bridge to safety. There you go. I use my your bridge to safety. I'm always good. I'm good at recovery. So that's been discussed. Those details haven't been settled. It's certainly, I think when you talk to, if you start those discussions about the maintenance agreement, you can, there's no requirement that it only be a one-item agenda.
Well, the thing is, it's free sand at this point, right?
That's correct.
So they
Well, we
may
got to
be-
pay for the contractors to bring it,
Right,
but the
I
sand
mean,
is free.
right.
And that is an enormous communicate information, and then the GoFundMe by making sure that if the person wants or believes that's part of their situation, to receive funds for executing their easement. So we're hoping that will happen. Now, as you know, we still have the South 2700 block. That's an old story. And you know how, but just for the sake of people quickly listening, we do have a number of them that have not signed there. And what the Army Corps has done, so as to facilitate our ability to secure our funds and to begin the project, they've made that an alternate. They put it sort of to the side. Doesn't mean it's going to be not done, but we're going to do everything else, the legal stuff on the balance, and then we'll turn our attention there. But we're still trying to get, and so is GoFundMe, and they've had some successes in the South 2700 block, but I do have an owner there that is very strident in not believing that this is an appropriate project. And I think the last time I was here, I did a couple of myth busting. I think I sometimes call it myth busting. And the last one, not to repeat it, was that we're going to assign the easement to some other entity, and all of these promises and visions that we've been painting to everybody are going to be torn asunder because it's going to get transferred to somebody else. And that is a fairy tale. All right, that's an absolute fairy tale. Okay, here are some others. These are not so much fairy tales, but these are things that are being uttered to dissuade people from signing the easements, the ones who have not signed. And this is why it's a problem. And one of them is that there was a promise, supposedly, allegedly, by FDOT that they would pay for a retaining wall and bury the sand and redo the beach. In other words, the Army Corps project plus the retaining wall. I don't believe there was ever any kind of proposal like that, because the millions, imagine, the millions were already up in about the 25 million range. It would be maybe double that to do that. So I've tried to, so that is being uttered. That is being uttered, that, and in other words, their interests have been compromised because you had the opportunity to get all that money from DOT to do the Army Corps project and the retaining wall. I know that's not true, and I've said that, but here's the dilemma for me. So if that person has uttered it to 10 people, how am I going to know? How am I going to get to them to let them know? That's poppycock. That is total fantasy. It's totally false. So it's the purveying of these false statements that is causing some people to hesitate because they don't know. So that's one. The other one is that there were other alternatives other than that, what I just described, that could have been done that would have improved the project, like let's really build a really long beach like they do in South Florida. Well, that may not be, I don't know that that's appropriate for Flagler Beach or Flagler County. That's not our community, right? And the design has been done very specifically to protect to the maximum extent, with the knowledge known, with the data known, the best engineering principles to protect our community. So that's how I push back on those kinds of arguments. Then now we get into a different level of argument, and that is that these people have been threatened, that the government has threatened these people. We don't threaten anybody. The most we do is provide information. If we find out something, and either because they ask it or because it's become a popular myth and we need to debunk the myth, we put that information out there. And we're trying to get them to understand the value of the project, especially when the only interest we are attempting to get is the right to do the project. We don't want to take the land. We don't want any ownership. There's no change in their domain over their property, except that they will have a dune restored where they have no dune right now, and will maintain it for 50 years at no cost to them. So we've all said, we all know it's kind of a no-brainer. But I indicated to the individual, I said, look, if there's anybody who thinks that they've been threatened, please, you refer them to me, and we will address that problem lickety-split. Or if anybody is doing the threatening, please tell me. I don't have any problem summoning law enforcement if we need to. And I know that you guys would feel the same. You wouldn't think differently about that. The gentleman told me, I do not believe him, but the gentleman told me that somebody had their tires slashed and their car vandalized. And I've never heard that. I'm sure I would have heard that from somebody if it, so this is a person that's just stirring up a lot. And I'm saying it because I want it to be publicly known. I want people, you know, who have heard any of this stuff, if they want any additional clarification, if they want to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate, in other words, you know, that the DOT didn't offer the whatever, I want them to feel free to contact us and we will straighten them out. And anyone who fears, I don't know, who fears whatever, we're certainly willing to deal with that. I have said, I know that residents of the beachside are very upset with owners who are stalling the project. I don't know if you guys remember, I'm sure you do when I remind you, that when we started, or finally began our effort, I told you we'd be underway right about now. Remember that? We'd be underway, and we'd be done by the end of December before the winter seas came in, so that we would have the advantage of being able to bring in that sand and do the project during a time when our tourism would be least affected, you know, by a project of this scale. So now we've missed that timeline because of people not coming forward and, in my opinion, doing the right thing. They have no excuse now. If they think the right thing is they need to get a check, we've got an organization that's willing to do that, okay? So in my mind, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. So I just do that as a big explanation. We want to get underway. We want to lock up those funds. If we have to do the eminent domain, I mean, we've got it going. We're not waiting to find out the person's answer. We're going, and we'll do whatever we need to do in the South 2700 block. So that's my report.
Thank you, Al. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for
Certainly.
catching us up.
Thank you.
All right, now we get to the public comment part of the agenda. This is when anybody can get up and ask any questions or make comments on any item that is not on the agenda. Just come on up one at a time and give your name and where you live. Don't everybody get up at once? Okay, seeing none. Nick, are you getting up?
It's easier if I just do it. So, how's it going? Hi, I'm Nicholas Kimball. I live at 1360 Lambert. I was just gonna give you guys something, just so you have.
Give it to Penny and she'll.
Never thought Christmas trees would cause quite a stir. So my name is Nicholas. My family would like to donate 20 Christmas trees for Veterans Park for Christmas to be used as a medium for to be decorated either by the businesses or by the community. When I first moved here, I was 17, and we used to have these kind of cool Christmases. We had Satanic Santa and these silly reindeers, and we kept those going for years and years. And then as kids got older, and they had to move out, parents get older, and there's less involvement. Now we have more resurgence of younger families, which is really nice. So my family loves Christmas, and basically we noticed that I was part of a business group. I didn't realize what I joined, but I really just thought I was joining a decorating committee. So, so apparently I didn't. So anyways, sorry for posting stuff on that site. And however, I did knock on many doors to help with this lighting project that is a partnership with the TDC. These trees are not part of the TDC. They're not part of the Flagler Business Bureau. They're just Nicholas thinking this would be really nice to put in the park. But I did have a plan. Plans are important. So basically my proposal is we want to donate the 20 trees to be decorated by the community December 4th, which is in kind of like correlation with what the TDC and the city of Flagler, the business people, would like to do. These trees would stay up till January 4th. The trees would line the walkway through the center of Veterans Park. This would provide access to the park and the benches as well as a place to sit. To keep the trees secure, we have sandbags and zip ties for ornaments. The trees can be decorated in the guise of no political messages. Ornaments can't be paper or glass, no garland, nothing that can get, blown away and cause problems. Zip ties on the trees as well. I bought, the trees actually have really good stands. And the maintenance of the trees, if that's an issue, can be handled, I think we discussed it being handled by volunteers. I don't mind being responsible with my group of people. I have 2 restaurants here and 2 people that work for me that I'll gladly pay, one in the AM and one in the EM, in the PM. Second thing is like implementation, right? How does this work? So basically the trees show up, I get a group of volunteers, we open the boxes, we set the trees up. City allows us to have power. So LED power is really cool. So you can power like 8,000 lights from one 15 amp outlet and uses roughly 12 amps, so you're 20% below. Is that my
Make you
timer?
have 15
Seconds. Oh, anyways, with a group of volunteers, let's see. So what would be required from the city? Can we set up the trees? Can we get support? Can we tie it to the power in an effective way? And basically, our timers would basically have the trees go on and go off on an 8 to 12 hour timer. That's it.
Okay, I know that the mayor was going to discuss some of this under commission comments
Okay.
later on.
I just figured you guys
And
would
the
wanna-
agenda got a lot shorter, so
Okay, cool.
if you can wait until then.
Sure. I thought this was when the public was supposed to comment.
Well, this is public
Oh, okay,
comment.
sorry.
But we'll be able to respond and have a little
Yeah.
conversation.
I was going to
and-
report on it later on and get consensus. and
Okay,
all that.
cool. So you guys have heard the spiel and you guys know the deal. Awesome. All right, thanks.
Nick, are you able to stick around till further in the meeting? Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I'll close that part of the agenda. And we move on to the consent agenda. Item 7 is the minutes of the October 22nd meeting, regular meeting, and the special meeting of October 28th. And number 8 is an engagement letter with James Moore for auditing for the next 5 years. Anybody up here have any issue with either one?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody in the public wish to address any of those items? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Look for a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. I didn't fall asleep, I'm here.
Sorry, Debbie.
Now it's unanimous.
All right, we are not hearing number 9, so we move on to number 10, which is direction to staff about a FEMA hazard mitigation grant.
Fred's not here?
Fred's not here. So are you addressing this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is a grant to armor the Wickline Senior Center and the library, windows, doors, and a new roof on the senior center. And it is a 25%. The FEMA is going to do 75, we'll do 25%.
So it would only cost the city about 76,000?
Yes.
Okay, that's really good. And it's not until next year's budget?
Correct.
We can get the grant this year,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
not spend it till next year?
Yes.
Okay. Just make sure that.
Well, we apply for it this year and be able to use it next year, yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I thought the county was responsible for the senior center or part of it.
I thought we took it over.
Oh, just basic maintenance? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Been in the process of taking it back over,
Yeah.
and before the meeting, Mr. Adid came over and told me that that's moving towards resolution, so the next 120 days or so, we can see a resolution.
It's only been at least a year now, but that's good.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's just move
Yeah.
forward. I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. Back, I guess about the time that we started renovating the old school building and turning it into the building department, or that section of it, I I remember going to a county meeting and hearing that they had just secured this mitigation grant to do some work on county property, and that it was a 75% grant, 75-25. So, and I brought that back to Larry, our city manager at the time, and I kept asking about it and asking about it and asking about it, and I know that the emergency manager, Jonathan Lord, had just started, I believe, and he was talking about that he knew how that, he was in charge of getting the one done with the county. So I told, and then I guess I just said it enough, and Rick or Fred got a hold of it finally and talked to Jonathan and got this worked out. So it's a win-win for sure, because we're replacing all the windows in all three buildings, the doors, plus the roof, like Rick said, for less than what it would cost us to put windows in just the school.
Sure.
So it's a great deal, and I think we ought to be thankful for those that made it happen. So
Anybody else?
That's my comments.
Anybody in the public wish to address this?
And you won't have to board up the windows at the WIC line anymore. Correct, Rick? If a
Correct.
hurricane's
And-
coming, we won't have to go down, and Bill's boys won't have to go and board up
That's
the
worth the
walls.
76,000.
Exactly, and unfortunately, the only windows that we board up are the windows facing east.
Mhm.
So if the storm comes from the west, we're in trouble.
Good news.
Okay. So, somebody want to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion that we
I did,
move forward with this grant, hazardous mitigation grant for repairs or upgrades to our WIC line buildings.
Second.
we don't need a roll call on this. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Debbie?
Aye.
Now you know what you sounded like, Ken. Ken? I said, now you know what you sounded like when you.
When you were on the phone.
All right, we're not doing 11 and 12. So we go on to 13, which is Resolution 2020-38.
Resolution 2020-38, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Resolution 2019-17, which adopted the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget to reflect a budget amendment to provide funds for year-end budget shortfalls, providing for conflict, providing an effective date hereof.
Okay, anybody have any comments, questions?
Kathleen left. Kathleen left.
I guess, or is she in her office?
Just had a couple.
So in this, this is transfers of money from last year's budget into this year's budget. And somewhere where I was reading in this, it was,
Rick,
so
are
this,
you, before you get too far into it, are you looking at 2020-38 or 2020-39? Because I think 2020-39 is your roll forward resolution.
okay,
This one, I think, is moving to budget, this one is covering budget shortfalls.
Yeah,
okay. All right, I'll save my comments for the next one then.
okay, so you don't have anything on this one?
No, I was.
Nobody else?
I did.
You do? Okay.
Rob Smith, I have a question for you, if you could come up.
Evening, everybody.
Hi.
Just a couple questions about budgeting. So sanitation budget tipping fees were higher than expected. Now, we just set the new budget. Is the new budget going to be sufficient to the adjusted tipping fees? Has that all gotten rolled in and calculated?
Yeah, we should be fine. The biggest problem we had last year is we rolled back the fees for all the businesses for about, I think, 6 or 7 months. So we lost quite a bit of revenue with that.
And then, so looking forward, minus anything drastic, we shouldn't have any issues.
No, we shouldn't. I've got to tighten up some stuff with recycling and other things that are going on in town. I'm working on that right now. So that's a major thing that needs to be looked at, so.
And is that something that you're presenting tonight?
I'm not presenting anything. I just want to maybe give some guidelines to where we're headed so that we can.
Is this a good time to do that?
I'm not sure what's going on here.
Well, we're looking at the fees moving forward this fiscal year to ensure we're not over.
And you have something?
No, I was,
I know what your question was. I'm not sure what Rob's doing.
I mean, I was asked to maybe lay out some guidelines of where we're headed with recycle, or just a generalization of what's going with it, but I didn't know if this was the time for that.
In previous, Jane, to help
What does that
clarify
have to
things.
do with this resolution is what I'm asking.
I think he's got a couple ideas that he's going to propose
I
to
can-
save us going over budget this coming year. I think he's.
Which
tied
has
in
what
there.
to do with this resolution?
Yeah, that would be a separate topic.
Okay. I think what Rob was going to present some information related to recycling, correct?
Yeah.
Related to
Okay, and
educating the
I'm
public
anxious to
on.
discuss recycling, but what does that have to
Right.
do with this?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
probably
did not
be-
realize this was how this was going to go.
Probably be a
Sorry.
separate
Excuse
agenda
me.
item, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah. and
yeah,
maybe-
I'd love to
Yeah, I-
discuss recycling.
Yeah. I
So
can
I'm
speak-
sorry, I'm
I-
not trying to be rude to you.
No, that's fine. I can talk about this later. That's fine. I mean,
When we get to staff reports, would that be all right?
that'd be great.
Okay,
Or if he wants to put it on as an agenda item.
Yeah,
I mean,
that would be
hate
good
for him
too.
to sit here for hours just to.
Yeah, I was just wanted to speak for generally about what where we're going to be heading at some point, but that, I can do it at the end or another time, or it doesn't
so
matter.
why don't we make it a separate agenda item, then we're all in the right mood for it.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Right mind frame for it.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah, and I think that'll probably draw a lot of interest too, is why it should be a separate
Right.
agenda item.
Yeah, then I can maybe put some information out for people that they can watch, and we can start the education process on where we're headed with recycling.
Yeah, you and I've had some talks about that too.
Okay, that was the only. Did I
Debbie?
say something?
Chair, I'm having a hard time following. I apologize. Are we talking about 12, 13, and 14 right now? All together?
We're on 13.
We're on 13.
13.
Okay.
That was the only question I have for Rob, is just forward looking on this year. I want to make sure we're good to go.
Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, and the other thing that was clear to me is the pier is a problem. That's a biggie too. All right,
Thanks, Rob.
thank you, Rob. Okay, any other comments? No? Anybody in the public wish to address this? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back up here and look for a resolution, look for a motion on the resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-38.
Second.
You already got it.
Okay.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Bryan, or Commissioner Phillips,
Yes for the motion.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Belfinger,
Yes.
Chair Bailey.
Yes. Okay, now we go on to number 39, 2039.
Resolution 2020-39, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Resolution 2020-28, which adopted the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to reflect a budget amendment to roll the appropriated fund balances from fiscal year 2019-2020
little clarification. So this resolution is amending last year's, not for shortfalls, but for changes that were made during the year. You know, with our pandemic thing, I did not really get in here every time we did something. So it's kind of a catch-up housekeeping to make sure that we have everything done for audit purposes.
I still haven't found those pages, so they're not in here. Thank you. Thank you.
Nobody else has any questions while Rick's looking for his question?
No.
Debbie, you have any questions on this?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Well, the good news is that we're getting that money back from $290,000 for the CARES Act. It's coming from the county, and today I finished doing the reimbursement for the first responders, and that comes up to about $241,000. So now we have to hope that they still say they have funds for it. That was their little caveat at the end, but, so that's a good thing, because that was unexpected.
So I'm assuming we're probably not going to get the money from Tico Gas in any way for that water main damage.
Still working on it, just don't expect it necessarily
But
soon.
we gotta
It's a
do something
process.
in the meantime, right? Okay. All right, thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Anybody in the public have any questions? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-39.
40.
40.
Second.
You were in the neighborhood.
Well, this one has 38 scratched out and 39 written on it, so.
It's 40.
Okay,
Commissioner Belhumeur,
yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Chair Neely.
Yes.
That was easy.
Yeah, that was easy. We just did number 16. We'll go on to the public hearings. Ordinance 2020-07. Thank you,
Ordinance.
Kathleen.
Ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance by the city of Flagler Beach, Florida, vacating an unimproved portion of South 17th Street, lying between blocks 15 and 14 of Fuquay subdivision, as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 26 of the official records of Flagler County, Florida, providing for public hearings, repealing all ordinances or parts in conflict herewith, providing for severability and an effective date.
All right, and Penny, you want to make your usual spiel on this?
Sure. This is, fourth time you've heard this. So this is the final step, this is the final reading of the ordinance. And, the property will split even between property owners, and they will be given to pay tax on it. I'll record this if it's approved, and a copy will go to the property appraiser, so he can assess that on their tax.
Great. Anybody have any questions now that we've seen this 4 times? No?
Property owner, any questions?
Anybody in the public?
My name's Tyler Ecker, 1644 South Flagler. Just wondering, what is the property labeled as? Is there a certain, is it conservation or anything like that?
That's, I'll have to find that out from, Larry Torino, because right now there isn't a zoning to it. It's
Usually it inherits the zoning of the parent tract once it's vacated.
That would be single family,
Okay.
R9, was it?
All right.
That'd just be
Residential.
an extension to what you already have,
Perfect, thank you.
unless we hear different, but.
That's usually what happens, unless there's something weird with the zoning. Like, for instance, if there were a zoning assigned to it, that could be different, but in most cases, it inherits the zoning of the tract that it's attaching to now.
So in the end, you should be able to do anything with that property, you would be able to do with your own, the property that exists now.
Thank you.
Just be an extension of.
Anybody else? Seeing none, close public comment, look for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance 2020-07.
Second.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan.
Yes.
Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Jane, I mean, Commissioner.
Yeah, it's okay. Yes to either one.
I've been off 7 days, it's
It's fine. All right, ordinance 2020-08.
Ordinance 2020-08, natural gas franchise agreement. An ordinance granting to Peoples Gas System, a division of Tampa Electric Company, its successors and assigns, a non-exclusive natural gas franchise agreement to use the public rights-of-way of the city of Flagler Beach, Florida, and prescribing the terms and conditions under which said franchise may be exercised, making findings, providing an effective date, and repealing prior ordinances.
Any questions? This is second final reading. Anybody?
No, I got all my questions out last.
Anybody in the public? Debbie, you have a question?
Not bad.
Anybody in the public wish to ask a question? Seeing none, bring it back up here, look for a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2020-08, natural gas franchise agreement.
Second.
Rick, you with a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes to the motion.
Chair Beely.
Yes. All right, now we go back to commission comments. Start with the mayor.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Commissioner Mealy to help me with this, and we also have Deborah Naughton out in the audience from the TDC. This was never intended to be a agenda item, but somehow it's kind of grown legs and really need consensus and direction from the commission to make this move forward, if in fact they want this to move forward. A little background, the Flagler Beach Business Group had wanted to do light up Flagler Beach, something to that degree, get people to come here, shop, drive around the town, see all the beautiful lights. And so we've been working on this for a few weeks. They reached out to the tourist development with Amy, and they said that they would help sponsor and work with it as well. The idea was to get the businesses to put up lights, residents to put up lights. We are obviously lighting our park as normal, and there was discussion of getting a real tree, and I know Deborah was looking into it. And Nick generously went out and bought 20 trees that he wants in the park, which we'll get to that. But, so anyway, they've come up with kind of made it an event. It's called Starry Nights in Flagler Beach. They were hoping that most of the businesses and residents along A1A and so forth could use blue and white lights, but it's nothing that we're doing right now. If you have red and green lights, they're certainly not going to ask you to go out and buy all blue and white lights. But the goal is to each year make it a little bigger, make it a little better. We realize we're behind the 8 ball here, starting this close to the holidays, but we're hoping, next year start planning a little earlier, add to it, make it bigger, bigger, bigger. Not that we'll ever be St. Augustine, but something along those lines. So the Tourist Development Council has said that they will pay for the pier to be lit up. And they've met with a couple different lighting directors, because what I have said is we have 3 maintenance men, and we'll have no maintenance men if all of a sudden we have to tell them you have to do all of this. So they've generously agreed to sponsor that. The only drawback on that, which I let them know today because I just found out from Rick last week, is that pier will be tented for a few days in January for the termites. So the lights on the pier, it shouldn't affect it, but people driving by will have to look at a tent with it. So anyway.
But still, as you're coming from the north or the south, you
Sure,
would see.
yeah, absolutely. Johnny had reached out to Florida Power and Light. He wanted us to get the FPL poles decorated. Once again, 3 maintenance men, wasn't gonna happen this year. However, he made some good contacts there. We had filled out paperwork. I'm saying me and Penny, not that we have to do it, but we needed to get grandfathered in because they say next year they may not allow you to do poles. So to get grandfathered in, we sent it in saying, but it's not gonna be done this year. First of all, we don't have the brackets to put up there. We don't have the time. But the good part is they gave us a donation. They want to be a sponsor of this for $3,405. They got $5. Kathleen was kind enough to fill out that paperwork today, so.
That's
they're-
from FPL?
FPL, The woman there, a lot of events have been canceled this year, so she had some leftover money in her budget, and she's donating to the city for holidays. So, also, the TDC is going to provide 3D glasses to all the businesses to hand out, so when people drive around to see the lights, the 3D glasses. What we're trying to do, like I said, is, just keep building on this every year. And like I said, had we started 6 months ago, we might have a little more done, but a lot has been accomplished.
Sounds like.
The original plan was to leave the lights up till the 31st. That probably won't happen this year, certainly not in the park anyway. If businesses want to, they certainly can. If houses want to, they certainly can. But in the future, we're trying to get the goal for everybody to keep them up through the month of January. So that brings me back to the trees. And I spoke to Bill in maintenance about the trees in the park and how much electricity they would take. And the palm trees, which they're starting tomorrow, they've got the lift out there to wrap all of those, take a lot of the power, but there will still be some outlets available that we can put some on there. So I've suggested that maybe, Nick and I meet with Bill, walk it, see how many trees, where we could put them to kind of go from there. If we can't put 20, then we can't put 20, but if we could put 10, however.
Well, those LED lights use next to no electricity.
Right,
so
right, but it's
what Nick's
more like,
proposing
do we
should-
have the sockets, the holes?
Well, the one cord after another, you can put them in
Yeah.
series because they use such low.
Right, so obviously,
Small
the
man.
one concern was with the trees, because take it from somebody who had to wrap reindeer and put up Scary Santa for many, many years. Things blow over, lights go, people come out of bars at 2 a.m, decide they want to jump on a reindeer, so there are things that happen. And so I said that would be my only fear, is that, whoever wants to do these trees, that's wonderful, but they have to maintain the trees. And he's already gotten several businesses that would like to participate, but we also have the Flagler Women's Club, Flagler Volunteer Services, there's Flagler Strong, that have agreed to work, to kind of maintain the trees. Because let's say Shannon from Swillerby's puts up a tree, well, she's a small operation, she can't be running over there 10 times a day to check her tree. But if we have volunteers that are willing to come and, look at the trees, make sure they're not knocked over, make sure the lights are working, if ornaments came off or whatever, that they're fixed. So that way they're maintained. And we would take those down, the same time we take the park lights down, whenever that is, the first weekend in January. So, thoughts? That's a lot of information.
Can we talk to Nick at this point?
Yeah, well, or Deborah. Deborah's got, I don't know if Deborah has.
First of all, I think what you've done is fantastic. I think what Nick has done is fantastic. I think it'll work. I did speak with Jason Leverett from Leverett Tree Farms out of Jacksonville. He also was born and raised in Flagler Beach, but he would charge us approximately $500 for a 12 to 13 foot tree. and then we would have to put it up and maintain it. So I think we're better off going with Nick's option at least this year, and just building on it. I think it's terrific.
I don't know if Nick or Deborah want to. Nick?
Oh, this is Nick and Rogue. So, like I said earlier, thanks, I appreciate that. This was, like I said, I thought I joined an organization for decorating committee, but it wasn't. It said TDC. I really did. So TDC, I just want to make sure TDC knows that I understand you guys don't have anything to do with this, except for we're just doing it in conjunction because you guys are sponsoring the pier. Thanks. You guys have a set of parameters that you'd like us to follow. I did want to show you something just so you can understand the power. This is a outdoor rated IP67.
So that's enough for one tree?
It's got 8,000, it's got it uses 12 amps and it'll take 8,000 lights. So, 20 trees, you're talking, what is it? 5 of those. And we're only gonna
But you're gonna meet with Bill, right?
Yeah. So, if you guys wanted me to
Do you have any ideas of how you're gonna?
Yes, I
secure
do,
these
actually.
trees?
So we have this really amazing resource because we have so many sandbags, right, in Flagler Beach because we've been hit by so many hurricanes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do what we used to do on the film set, and we just gonna drop the sandbags over the stands. I was showing you the size because these are 8-foot trees, so they have a better stand than the cheaper ones because we bought them in bulk. They're gonna be here in about 7 days. I could show you a demonstration of what we're gonna do before you guys. I hope you guys say yes because we really need something in the park, and I really just thought this was a way to get the community and the business together, and not about a financial thing, but more about a community-based thing. So
It's exciting.
Yes.
I like the idea.
Madam Chair? The only comment I'd make in regard to this, to ensure that everything is going the way that it should, is if we could get an electrician to provide oversight to the connections of all the trees, to ensure that, I know they don't draw a lot of current, but the only thing I would be cautious about is the connections, to make sure that they're not overloaded in any particular junctions.
Sure.
And with the environment that we have, with rain coming down on connections and all, there are devices that can actually secure them to protect them from water. Anyway, the only thing I'd say is
UL
that-
listing usually
Yeah,
does that for outdoor
it's
rating
not
stuff.
that great, but if
Yeah.
we could just have someone with a little electrical background that could say, well, yeah, like Rick. Now, just to provide a little oversight, because, we talked about this at the Flagler Creates meeting yesterday, and Flagler Creates would like to put up, sponsor one of the trees as well.
We'd love to make sure,
Yeah.
I walked around yesterday, we have almost 100 outlets in that park.
Okay.
And there's I think there's 400 amp service panels on the west side. I have another 100 or 200 panel over there, and everywhere there's a light, there's an outlet, and they're everywhere. And I went around with a multimeter, and I just tested it. Well, not a multimeter, but just a test to see how many of them were actually active and whether or not they had the weatherproofing on them.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was talking about, just have someone.
Yeah, we have a lot
Once
of
it's all
power.
done, have somebody inspect it.
And I think Bill, between Rick, inspector / city manager, and Bill, because Bill's very familiar with that
Right.
park and the lights and,
Right.
we can make sure that it's.
Cool.
So is that a yes?
Yes for me.
Yes for me. I'm good with it.
Two.
Awesome. All right, sweet. I
Debbie?
appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Hold on,
Thank you.
Okay, we're not done, we're not done.
We gotta hold on.
Way ahead. I got a couple things. Let me get some Drew stuff out of the way. Drew, so we have a event, city property, Christmas trees, Christmas display. What about if you have a come one, you almost have, for a city, you gotta have a come all. So what are we going to do about, so I'm assuming this is only businesses?
I would, honestly, my intent was to have people it was a Christmas tree as a medium, so if a family wants a tree, they can decorate a tree. We didn't have any, there was no plans except for wrapping palm trees, and Robin and I were just like, this would be really nice. And I called Linda.
Yes, your instinct is absolutely right. If you allow one display, you cannot exclude other displays of other religions or ideologies, whatever it is. But you're talking about a park which already is in that public forum mode. So the fact that you are having Christmas displays, yes, you have to be prepared for the fact that somebody says, well, I want to put up some alternative display. You better be prepared to say yes to that. But the reality of it is you're not creating a new public forum, which is where I get a little bit more engaged in this. Let's not create a public forum unless you really want to turn this into a public forum. It's a park. It's already a public forum.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have a plan as a city to address any, say you got a nonprofit or something that wants to have a tree, you know, what can we tell them? Let's there is a lot of businesses that are going to be spending a good amount of money, myself included. I just got done ordering everything and I looked at the tab and wow. But I think that because of this and because this kind of falls in line with, you know, say the GoFundMe for the Doom project. You know, when you have a group that is generous, that is going in themselves, you have all the businesses that are making big financial investments. If we, you know, electric is very inexpensive to run. It's very easy to run. You can redo an entire park in an afternoon when you have a basic electrician service come in. It's nothing to put it in the ground and run it. You know that. And so I think that we as a city, because all the businesses are going in big with this, TDC's going in big with this, Nick's going in big with this, you know, Eric's going in big. Because everybody's going in, we need to follow suit. And if we need to add electric to the park, you know, make any type of upgrades, it's a good capital investment that is very inexpensive that we're going to reap benefits from anyways. Because at some point, we will need the extra power. It's not anything that would be a negative, but I think I wouldn't want to limit the display because our park just doesn't have the juice. If we don't have the juice, I would say that we should talk about going in along with all the other businesses and following suit and saying, you know what, we'll put 1,000 or 2 into adding.
Where in the budget does that come from?
Well,
And that's something for next year?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
hopefully they will start, you know, we'll learn from this.
If
year.
you flagged every line of power in that park, it would look like the United Nations.
Right, but we do have line items that cover it. You have like the city manager, that promotion thing that we left money on. There's little spots. The electric is not a big investment. It's not a big
It's
pull.
more of a timing issue, simply because we have like 2 weeks to do this
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
And bringing in electric.
And I would rather be upfront about where the money's coming from. So for next year, when we start doing the budget, have our line item, I don't know if it goes under commission or it goes, I don't know where it goes.
Commissioner Mealy, Commissioner
sure-
Boyd.
I'm sure
It also
Bill-
costs a lot less if we buy Christmas decorations in February.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Also, we just got $3,000 from FPL. How ironic, FPL power.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that our city manager had a lot of electrical upgrades done in that park. So there have been there are a lot more there now than there were 3 years ago.
Right, and I'm not saying, until we get out there and know,
Mhm.
once they put up the lights, and then we'll know exactly, wow, we have enough power, we don't have enough power, and it is something to plan for next year, because this group's gonna be getting together in March and start planning for next year, because, as Nick mentioned, to order, whether we decide to put more banners on the light poles, whatever we decide to do, you have to order those months in advance, not 2 weeks in advance, so.
I just want to make sure that we as a city are prepared and willing to put as much in as everybody around us is, I guess is the point.
Thanks.
Okay, and I was just going to add that it was mentioned before, but the Women's Club said, the president of the Women's Club said, why should Eric pay his employees to do the decorating? Why don't we, not climbing up ladders or anything like that, but any kind of help that you could use, and use your employees the way you would normally use your employees. We're willing to help out with that, and I'm going to, Debbie, you're going to send me the file for this to, yeah, I saw it on Facebook. Is that, I don't know how to. Yeah, thank you. So we'll have I'll send this out to the Women's Club.
That's great.
And have them, I don't know how many we'll get. Remember the age group that we're dealing with. I think some will come out and help. And I know that Flagler Strong talked about doing something too. So, that'd be good. I think we have consensus.
Thanks. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's
It
great.
is awesome. Thanks, Nick. And everybody else as well, obviously.
Pull that mic down, please? I just want to let everybody know that.
He turned it off.
All right. Deborah Naughton, Tourism Office. So what I handed out to everybody already was the poster that can go up in all the stores, and I have a bunch of them here that I'll leave here, so if anybody wants to grab them and start distributing those. In addition, we also have this like call to action flyer, which you can use as talking points as you're recruiting businesses, and saying, here's the program, here's what we're doing. And again, like Linda said, we want everyone to participate, whether you have blue and white lights or not. So our theme is Starry Nights and blue and white lights, but anybody can participate. So that's kind of the talking points and the call to action here, and some information for the businesses. So I'll leave both of these flyers and anybody can pick those up. And certainly we can print out more if anybody needs those.
Great.
So.
Yeah, TDC's been really, really helpful, because there were ideas coming from all over the place, and Amy and Debbie kind of reined everybody in a little bit.
Yeah, we're very committed to this, not just for this year, but, for the future years. And as Mayor Preventer said, we have like a month to get this up and running. So, if we can get lights and stars on display, I think that we will have been incredibly successful this year. And in March, we'll start planning for the future.
And Deborah also is meeting with the lighting crew, and I said, we don't have a problem with lights on the pier. I know Bill checked the outlets. The only thing is, we have to allow fishermen on the pier, so there can't be anything that would stop somebody from, because, trust me, with those fishermen,
Whoa.
it wouldn't be on the pier for like a minute, they'd rip it down, so.
Yeah,
As long, and we want people to walk out onto the pier to look at the lights and look back at the lights, and hopefully it'll get more traffic on that pier as well, except when we're tenting the Funky Pelican.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Guys, I just have a couple other things. I'm going to be doing Flagler Beach, handing out meals on Thanksgiving Day. That email will go out tomorrow as soon as I send it to Penny. Oops.
Do you need money or not? You weren't sure.
You know, I'll always take money, but I think we're okay. You might want to hold off because we'll do it again at
Christmas?
Christmas, yep.
Okay.
And, you know, Carla and I will do the little light up Flagler Beach with our contest for the residents, Griswold Classic, traditional. And this year we're throwing in golf carts. Decorate your golf cart, you can win a prize. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
I don't have a golf cart. I can't come across a bridge, so I'll get a golf cart. Just very quickly, we had the Flagler Creates meeting yesterday, and one of the things we actually talked about was the Christmas trees, and Flagler Creates, the group, had actually talked about possibly sponsoring one of the trees as well in order to decorate it, since we're supposed to be Flagler Creating. So we're behind that and all into that as well. The other thing we talked about was, again, the virtual art walk tour type thing that that I discussed the last meeting, and I brought that up at the TDC. We will continue to pursue that. There's a video type person that can do that. And the idea, again, as a reminder, is to, on first Friday or Saturday or any particular day of the month that we decide to do it, there would be a virtual tour of different art galleries or businesses around town to display the works and crafts of different artists, which would be displayed on YouTube. Individuals could actually view that and possibly come down later to purchase something or to at least get some folks out there and get things going in these challenging times, because we can't have our art walks anymore, our First Fridays anymore. So this is a idea to hopefully try to encourage people to come out by virtually, and then later on come out on their own to look at the works and arts that are actually displayed. I talked to a couple of vendors also about having artists' work put back into their businesses so that people could actually see those and purchase them. When I talked to Johnny down at Oceanside, he said he was doing it at one time, and I think he sold over $15,000 worth of artwork at one time. So we're going to try to pursue that a little bit more and work on that. We also talked about the parking lots in the Flagler Beach area, and I talked to Rick about the budget for it, and since we're going to be addressing that later, I'm not going to get into that a lot, but we wanted to start looking at the first parking lot that we can do in order to start working on it, and we're going to have different groups that's actually going to take on the project of working on each one of the parking lots. The theme behind each one of them is, like, the turtle is going to be the first one that we work on, then it's going to be like the dolphin, and I think it's the osprey. So each parking lot has a theme behind it, and I'll also be working with Matt, our chief of police, on signage for parking, so that by the time the spring comes and we start getting a lot of folks coming back to the beach again, hopefully we can have some identification of where the parking lots are in order to help alleviate some of the pains of trying to find a parking spot around the city. One last thing, gardens, which we're all very passionate about and been getting a lot of information on. The Board of County Commissioners will be voting on the Gardens project Monday, and I think everyone here will probably be aware of it, or at least be in presence of it, since we have a presentation as well. So I just want to remind you of that. And the only other thing I'll talk on the gardens, and maybe Rick can cover that during his particular briefing, is that during the last meeting, we'd also discussed and had given him authorization to move forward to have another agency look at the floodplain that they had, and I think you had an engineering firm look at that, Rick? From the gardens. So you can talk about that when we get to you, if you like.
Okay.
So he's going to give us an update on that particular plan. And the idea behind that also was to have another set of eyes, unbiased, look at the plan that the gardens had presented, so that we'll know whether or not it is acceptable to avoid any type of flooding during storms and this kind of thing if the project goes through. So that's all I have for right now.
Very good.
All right, we pulled a couple of things out of the agenda tonight. So do we want to talk about these a little bit so they don't, so Rick has direction as to what how we want to move forward with.
Which ones do you want to talk
Well, I guess we'll start with, let's start with the paving project that's been on the agenda for the last two meetings.
Discuss them if they're pulled?
You can discuss, you wouldn't take any action on them.
Yeah, but we could give, reach a consensus and Rick could run with that, correct?
I would rather wait until we actually discuss these.
All right.
I don't know, Drew, what do you think?
You can discuss, but you wouldn't take any action on them. So it's really up to the.
All right, well, let me just make my points then.
Okay, yeah.
I think that us deciding to repave Central before FDOT has told us they're not going to is a little premature. So I think we ought to approach FDOT and see if we can get that section of road resurfaced as our previous city manager told us was going to happen. Some others heard that from FDOT directly that it was going to happen. And until we get a no from FDOT, we shouldn't pursue paving it ourselves.
Okay, so not to interrupt you, but in my discussion with Rick about this yesterday, he suggested that I write a letter because I said I remember FDOT saying that they would pay for it. In the meantime, I have checked with previous commissioners, people who aren't on the commission anymore, but were at that time when we first started.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And whatever letter we write, they will sign.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, my
I'm gonna
point
get with
is,
Drew on-
hopefully it doesn't pop up on the agenda again until we know for sure that FDOT isn't going to do it.
Well,
But hopefully that it goes the other way.
Then what Rick said, should we make it an agenda item then for the next agenda that we can write a letter, have, the chair write a letter, or you write a letter, Drew, or whomever? So at least we get that ball rolling.
The item would be, we look at the draft and critique and agree on it, I assume, is what?
How's
Like
that play with
you
your-
would present a draft?
I guess. We're not in any, are we in any hurry with this? I don't think we are.
I don't know. I mean,
That's
it
fine
keeps
with me
popping
then.
up.
Fred seems to be, but otherwise, I don't think Central Avenue's falling to pieces on us.
No, it's all right, so let's do it that way.
If Rick's done, I had some thoughts. Rick, are you done?
No, not yet. Did you want to talk on that?
No, just on
Okay.
the agenda stuff.
The other thing that we pulled was another one of Fred's items where is it? The construction standards that he wants to implement. We got an agenda package on Friday, and so we've had 3 working days to do our homework and decide whether it was, a good deal or not. And absolutely hardly any chance for the public to get involved with any discussion or input. I just think it's the wrong way to approach that. That would be done as a resolution. And we're in the middle of all these LDRs. Rick, you said this is different than, it's not within the Land Development Code. So how is it different? I mean, it's still standards for construction, right?
Well, the way it was explained to me is this was just an example in the event that a contractor came in and said, well, I'm kind of confused. How would I approach this? Well, here, we've got a picture. This will give you some idea of what we're looking for. I don't understand why.
The presentation was very vague.
Well,
As far,
and-
it was very incomplete, it seemed, to be making a decision on something like that.
Well, and I don't understand why that would have to come before the commission. If it comes before the commission, we are adopting something, and I don't believe we should be adopting recommendations.
Okay.
It's either a standard, a required standard from the city, which y'all would need to approve, or it's a recommendation. I don't see why a recommendation would come before you.
Okay, well, that's where many people were confused then, because some people thought that that was going to be the rules, not necessarily just a recommendation, so. Okay, well, if they want to make it rules to be followed, then it can be done along with the land development code rewrite, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because that's the direction I think we gave
But
staff the last time that this kind of came around out of nowhere.
talking to Larry Torino, Larry said, this doesn't belong in the land development code. No.
There's standards, you adopted a whole book of them back in 2018, and it's just additions, ones they didn't add to it. These are all the ones you adopted previously.
Okay,
So he just wants to add to that.
It's drawing after drawing after drawing after drawing.
okay.
Those standards,
And developers or builders are aware of those.
I assume they are, I don't review permits or develop.
No, I know you don't.
applications.
Okay, well, maybe if it comes back around, it's a little more explained a little better to us exactly what it is, because
Yes.
the total confusion with
Why
me.
did it get pulled today?
Because we didn't get a chance to really look at it. We had 3 days to even take a peek at it, so I would like something like that. I think we all ought to be able to do a little homework on it.
Okay.
We just felt it was too short a time period between the time that the commission had a chance to look at it and the meeting tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Keep my motion.
Done with that. So we got some unfunded mandates coming up after the $15 minimum wage passed, so we got that to deal with in our next 5 years of budgets. Our last meeting, we were informed about the southern walkovers getting started, the ones that hadn't gotten done yet.
We didn't, are we moving on from the agenda discussion? Because I had comments on that too.
Well, why don't we wait till let him finish. I don't know why we're talking about the agenda we're supposed to be talking about, so. Go ahead. You had other comments, you said.
I did. Let me get back to where I was. All right, last meeting, we were informed about the remaining walkovers at the south end of town getting done. And then next thing I know, I see ones on the north end, or at least one getting torn up on the north end. So, one that was operational. I had a conversation with Rick today, and he says that there's being discussed, there's talk with FDOT about getting the the remaining ones up the north end, what is it, 21st and 20th and 22nd, getting them replaced and repaired to where they're usable again. But how many other ones are on the north end that are going to get ripped out and replaced?
There are 2 or 3. And those were contracted to be done last budget. Turtle season kicked in, and they had to cease work.
Okay, so that's all budgeted stuff, right?
Yes. Now, we also have 2 different contractors,
Right.
one on the south end and Charles
on it.
Bergen is doing the north end.
Okay. Have you had a chance to find out what Larry had in mind with doing a sand fence up the north end?
I hadn't heard anything about sand fences.
Okay. Well, we were told that he had some sand fence stocked away somewhere, and that it was just about, ready to get something done up the north end. We still got these ugly steel poles sticking up all the way up there from 18th Street all the way out. Can we find out what's going on with either, it was something to do with FDOT again, as far as I know. I mean, they did it down in Ormond, and we were supposed to get something very similar.
I'll touch base
And,
with Bill and Alan, but I hadn't heard a thing from anybody about any
Well,
sand
we
fence.
all did up here.
I
So-
thought we didn't want.
I'm sorry,
sorry.
I don't mean to speak for everybody, but
I thought we didn't want the stuff that they did in Ormond. That we
No,
thought it was ugly.
I remember there being a discussion about the sand fence, but I also recall Larry indicating that it wasn't going to be that high, because there were a lot of concern about it obstructing the vision of the view of the ocean. So there was fencing going up, but it wasn't going to be as high as the others, and it was going to be buried, is what I recall. I'm not sure where it was coming from, but I do recall the conversation.
Well, DOT's the one that did the one in Ormond.
Correct.
So if that's the same one, then they would be the ones to do it up here, not us. Oh. But we weren't going to do it. We weren't going to have Bill go up there and do it. DOT would have done it, right?
DOT is aware of the problem with the sand, because just this last weekend, they had a crew out there with shovels and a bobcat clearing the sand off the sidewalk, which was buried up around the Java Joint area and all that. They know it's a problem. I think it's a matter of someone on our staff needs to get with DOT and get the sand fence arranged. If that's what y'all are wanting to do. And
I, for one, believe that it's needed. And once they cut the one down in Ormond down to size, it's really not that bad. As you drive through, you can actually see through it. So I don't think it really obstructs the view to that degree. And there's the people driving down the road when there's a sandstorm out there. I mean, I still, I roll my windows down. I hear, oh, it's grinding because of the sand it's blown. And the folks that live on the west side of A1A, they're just getting hammered with that sand. And it actually goes all the way through to Central, and the houses going up Central. So I think it's really something that we ought to follow up on. Repairs through that stretch of Ormond Beach where they did put the sand fence up were very similar to some of the repairs we had here, and they used that same sand. So I don't know why they opted to do it there but not here. And I know Larry had something going on. I don't know who he was speaking with or what, but I seem to remember him saying he already had the sand fence available. Okay.
I'll check with Bill and Alan, and we also have someone with the new FDOT maintenance people. He used to work here.
Yeah.
I know him. I'll give him a call in the morning and
Maybe
see.
you think anybody in Ormond Beach would be familiar with how that all got done? Would that be an option to call somebody in Ormond Beach and ask them how it got done?
I could give him a call.
Yeah, just a thought.
Actually, Ron Mead might be
Okay.
an individual that either myself or Matt could contact, and he may have some input.
So getting back to what Al was talking about and the maintenance money for the dunes, how do we want to proceed with that as far as him offering help towards working out the details of doing that? Or do we want their help, or are we gonna,
I would think Rick should reach out to them first and see. And if we
Okay.
get their help, we can get their help. If
Yeah.
not, we can do it
all right,
on our own.
well,
That's
can we
my thinking.
give that direction?
Since he just told us about 20 minutes ago. I think you got your direction, right?
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Okay,
Oh, one last thing, I'm sorry.
almost.
Penny, with the Pal Parker Park, you gave me that, you had given me an email from DEP that Larry had gotten. I'll send you the copy so you don't have to dig it up. And maybe you could share that with the others before we have
local housing programs
I'm
to
not
any
aware
of
of any
our residents?
I'm not aware of any involvement, Debbie.
The county is, the Sadowski Fund, is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
The county is.
the county is, I'm actually
county
on,
is?
I'm
Okay,
actually
but
on,
not at the local city level, okay.
yeah, the county has an affordable housing committee that keeps an eye on that. And I'm part of that, so if there's questions you want to know as far as
Oh,
what
okay.
the county's doing, I can certainly keep you informed. Or the whole.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Okay, thanks, sir. And then my other comment is, I want to just thank Jane and Matt for the Veterans Day event that we had yesterday. I thought it was very well done. I would have liked to have seen more people attend, but I thought it was, really, really well done. So thanks to the two of you. And my third thing was to talk about Johnny D's as well, but Rick will cover that. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I attended the League of Cities from my dining room. The Utilities and whatever it is, the Natural Resources Committee, and we came up with our final two things, and it's always about water and water quality and water funding. Every year we come up, different wording, but those are the two things that are always dealt with. So it's dealing with wastewater discharge, which we are very familiar with. Basically saying we understand it has to be done, but don't make us do it when we don't have any money. And those aren't the fancy words they're going to use, but that's basically what it comes down to. And about building resilience in, dealing with climate change without using those horrible words, climate change. So that's from that. What else? We had the beach boo, and thank you to the police department and the fire department. That worked out very nicely. We did hang up the flag. It was really quite a challenge for the diabetes flag blowing all over the place. I spoke to the American Legion in Palm Coast. They had wanted Linda to go, but she was unable, so they got second best. And I talked about the history of Flagler Beach and what kind of government we have. They really didn't know much of anything about Flagler Beach. So they really listened. I thought they wanted to know what the main issues were. So I'm sure you can guess what the main issues were. And so it went pretty well. Thank you to Matt for the Veterans Day. And yesterday we had the fire and police pension board meetings. Money seems to be hanging in there for now. They talked about lowering the assumption rate, but they have to bring us more numbers on that. So I'm not sure what is going to happen with that. And that's all I have. Yes.
I forgot two items, if you don't mind, I'll only take
No,
a
go ahead.
second. It's just as a follow-up on the last meeting we had regarding the connection fees on the the water meters. And I think we were going to make that an item for discussion or make some decisions on that as to what we were going to do moving ahead, if we were going to just sunset that and just put in regular meters or move ahead with the new meters. So I wasn't quite
Did we need some more
I
information?
didn't know if we were gonna, and that's why I wasn't clear if we were gonna get any information on that, have a workshop on it, or just get some kind of information on what to do about that, because I felt as though it was kind of hanging in the air. It was something that Kathleen had discussed, and she said that we were losing money with the installation, so I wasn't quite sure where we are with that.
Right, I'm not sure either. I think
Okay, that's what I just
we
wanted
need
to-
some more information.
Okay, I just wanted a little bit more clarification as to where we were going with it.
Okay.
And then the last item was, I was looking at Chief Pace's comments on what they had done in one of our firefighters had basically been awarded, he's working on his bachelor's degree and he got a grant for a full semester to be paid, and I thought that was a great thing, was Captain Cox. And also, the chief also talked about, they were discussing starting a wellness program. I think the chief, our police chief here is also starting on that on Wednesdays. They're walking across the bridge at 7:30 in the morning for everybody that's up and ready to go. I think I'll try to join them next week.
My legs wouldn't know how to walk across the bridge at 7:30 in the morning.
And then the other thing was, and I only bring it up because I know, a lot of folks say, these firefighter guys are sitting around doing nothing, but I was looking at all the things they're doing in the community as far as going out and putting up smoke detectors and doing free home inspections and this kind of thing here. So I just want to give a shout out to them. Our staff, both the police department and the firefighters, do a lot of stuff in the community, and I just want to recognize them for their efforts and what they've been doing. That's it.
Yeah, those reports we get are really amazing. Okay, nobody has anything else? Okay, Drew.
Just for reference to Monday and the gardens hearing, I did sit down with Larry at 4 today to go over his presentation for that. And I would ask if any of you are planning on speaking at the county commission. Penny's going to notice it, so you're free to speak during the public period at the commission meeting. If you are planning on speaking, if you wouldn't mind giving me a call over the next few days, sometime between now and Monday afternoon, just so I can kind of hear what your thoughts are. You don't have to go through exactly word for word what you're going to say, but just kind of the thoughts you want to express to make sure that I'm not going to say anything that might undermine anything you want to say. Yes, ma'am?
Well, all right, Eric, go ahead.
I don't plan on speaking, but I usually get inspired.
That's
So-
where I was going to go.
Well, then as long as you're speaking after Larry and I will trust you not to undermine what we said.
Got
But if
it.
any of you have a plan in mind what you'd like to say, just give me a heads up so I can be sensitive to that at anything that I say.
Okay, but if we get inspired.
You will have heard Larry and I by then, so then it will be upon you to not undermine our arguments.
Okay.
Got it, yeah,
But we may or may not need to speak depending on
right.
how it goes.
that's what happened at the last meeting that this was brought up, that inspired the entire thing that we're doing right now is.
Understood. I get that part of it. If you have thoughts in mind, I didn't want to say anything, because I won't have the benefit of having heard your comments by that point. I didn't want to say anything that might undermine some of your comments. That was my only request, and that's all I have tonight.
Okay, Rick?
Yeah, I'm going to start with, in the last 3 weeks of October, we took in 7 new single-family homes. So we're back on track building.
When we were driving yesterday, when I'm driving, I can't always see what's going on around me because my eyes are in front of me. But sitting in somebody else's car, I noticed how many new houses were going up around the ride we did for Veterans Day.
Well, and these 7 haven't even been started yet. I mean, they're still in the process of plans review. So, the parking pool, I touched base with Larry Torino. On the south side of 100, we have 178 spaces.
Total.
Out of that 178, Ted Barnhill has 65
For this,
dedicated across the street here. Johnny D's asked for 30, and the remaining is 83 spaces.
I know Fish Company
yeah, that's what I,
had gotten some spaces or requested some. Now, I know they haven't done their expansion, but part of their expansion was based on parking spaces. and the
Okay, but
parking pool.
because we have no plans, we have no seating, we have nothing, we couldn't dedicate.
Yeah, we gave them
They
something.
did at the
They
time
were
have all that.
submitted,
They
yeah.
had seating,
Because we had to
plans,
approve it.
everything.
that's what I
Yeah.
tried to say the other day.
Yeah.
Their plans, it was because of the Fish Company that this parking
Right.
pool idea came up.
And they may have not pulled the permit, obviously they haven't because the permit would have expired by now. But the plans that they had drawn up and were presented to the PAR board and here had parking spaces attached to them.
Okay, but they haven't even submitted a plan
They have.
we
Not
had
to
it at-
you, not to the building department,
Okay,
but
well, this is from Larry Torino. who is
I
the
understand
keeper
that, but
of
I think
the-
we're forgetting, and then if this hotel goes here,
Oh, yes.
I mean, but,
Preliminary, and that's why we created the parking pool partially because of that. And when Barnhill came up with his, I called them, hey, have you put in? And they said, oh, not yet, we're working on this, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, or they don't know, but they have just kind of stalled flat with their moving forward with their expansion.
so they would have to resubmit.
I believe it was a preliminary thing, just to kind of feel out if they would be approved when they came before us.
It had to be more than that, or we wouldn't have gone through all this parking pool thing.
Well, I think they
that's
planned
what-
on moving forward.
That's what started it, though,
Yeah.
and with the par board, and then the par board and Larry's, Torino started the idea of the parking pool and brought it to you.
Right, he saw it in West Hollywood or somewhere. Yeah.
We shouldn't hold parking spaces for,
No, we
Years on
decided
end.
when we wrote it, it was first come, first serve.
okay.
Yeah, it would be a shame if we went through all that and then the original concept, they don't get to use it, but that would be a choice that they would make.
And so there are still quite a few spaces left.
Yes, and Larry Torino being the keeper of the parking spaces, he didn't mention a thing about the fish company.
Okay. 83
Yes.
left.
Well, they won't last long if that hotel comes.
No, definitely. We had a meeting with them, and they are providing quite a bit of their own parking.
Because they're considering some underground.
Underground.
Yes. I know y'all are aware of the drainage issues, South 24th to South 28th. Engineering has made a recommendation that we go out and hire someone to do a study.
After we spend how much?
What are we studying?
It's Mother Nature. On how to either control some of the flooding. Apparently, we have discharge pipes that discharge into the intercoastal or the wetlands, and we do not have check valves in them. So when the tide is up, the water comes back into Flagler and South Flagler and South Daytona.
That area has flooded since the beginning of time.
Yes,
And you're telling me now that engineering is saying we need to hire an engineer to come look at this?
Like,
I think we've done this a time or two.
like
I
y'all,
mean,
y'all can hire me and I'm gonna tell you you
Yeah,
built low.
I'll tell you why it
You got low
floods.
elevation.
I tried to explain to a couple of the residents down there one day, and basically said, it's Mother Nature. We have a couple of times out of the year that we have king tides, extremely high tides. And basically what I got from them was, go blow smoke up somebody else's. We're not buying it. You can fix it.
No.
Let them
You
hire
can't
engineers.
fix Mother
We
Nature.
could put a levee, we could pretend it was the Mississippi River and put levees up and.
But what about check valves? That would be a easy thing to do.
There is no check valves down in that
Right.
area.
And that would
There's
be
nothing down there.
strictly for, we have some storm drains out there that do back up with these king tides. That would be a very minor fix.
And that's us doing our due diligence, our part.
Yes.
And, we're not in the control Mother Nature business. But we can do something like that. And
If
that's
it's
reasonable.
something
Yeah.
like that, absolutely, but
Yeah, if it's our pipes that are
Right.
causing
that
the
are
problem,
causing
but if
it.
it's the river
Yeah.
and king tides,
yeah.
If your sea level rises to X feet and you're built below it,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a problem.
Yes.
And there's
yes.
nothing that the city can do to protect you
Exactly.
from that problem.
And again, the streets.
Well, Fred has also said on several occasions that he wanted to review or go inspect what's really going on down there. And we've got remnants is all that's left of a previous stormwater project down there behind on Flagler Avenue, where the ditches and the continuation of the water flow is all disturbed by driveway aprons and just, it needs to be updated and maintained. If the water goes downhill when it does go back down, but then the water stays kind of where it is because the water that lets, the system that's designed to let it, go back out into the intercoastal are just all dammed up and not maintained. So a lot of that water that's on that corner at 24th and Daytona would go away if the gutters and, gutters and drains were cleaned out and it would allow it to go into the storm drains that are there.
Well, and
right now-
unfortunately, as we put these swales in, we have residents that are filling them in as fast as we put them in.
Well, how do we stop that? Driving around and make notes. We got lots of trucks driving around here. Somebody's got to see something happening.
And we get the reports on it. I guess what's going to happen is we're going to have to start bringing them to the magistrate.
Is that how that would go?
Yes.
We'd have to bring them to the magistrate?
Yes.
That's how it goes in like Palm Coast and stuff. Swales are not something you can tinker with in Palm Coast. So I would assume we would just follow suit with what they do.
Yes. We Commissioner Bryan, myself, Fred Griffith, the engineer, we met with the developer, his engineering staff on the stormwater for the gardens. And since then, we have had a report back from an engineering firm for the county. And they're all under the same impression that this project and the way it's set up, that we should have no issues with flooding. Of course, we all know that when we get that 500-year or 100-year,
No, that you can't.
no, we can't control that. But we had spoke about hiring an engineering firm to look into it for our side. We have 3 different engineering firms that have already looked at it, and they're all basically the same. There shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. We shall see.
Saved us some money.
So their stormwater should stay on site.
Yes, sir. We,
And that's 3 reviews by 3 different engineers.
3
correct?
different engineering firms. We signed a contract with a contractor Friday for the repair of the pier. They should, sometime within the next 2 weeks, should be starting to move forward, getting us all buttoned back up. They will be tenting Funky Pelican, the A-frame, restrooms, bait and tackle, and the lifeguard shack from January 4 through January 8th.
The request came that it be a blue tent, so when the lights are being cast on. Just
Blue tent, we can do that.
I am.
The
So
parking,
it takes a day or so, a day and a half probably to rig it all up, and the tent's only up for a day, right?
yes, yeah,
Because they just did Martin's, and that was You know, it was up and down before you knew it.
Parking lots. Just a recommendation from my side. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we are in ADA compliance on all the parking lots before we go any further. And I need some input from the commission on what you're looking for in these parking lots.
Well, the same rules that we applied to businesses when we tell them they have to have certain rules about the parking lots. And I think we agreed we didn't want them paved. Did not want them paved.
Something though,
Yeah.
because if you drive around right now, there's no parking because it's a big lake, every single city parking lot. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but there's no parking when it rains.
But we didn't want to increase the pervious surface.
Well, we can bring in some lime rock. We can grade the lots.
Yeah, that would,
That's one way to go.
It would be just like what the fix for the parking in front of Funky Pelican was, something like that. You remember when we repaired all that? It used to be a big mess, and Rick, I'm sure you know I'm talking about when we did
Yes.
that big fix. Yeah, anything like that, any version.
We have gone ahead with, and issued a purchase order to survey the parking lots, so we know exactly where we stand. I don't believe we have anywhere.
Let me look tomorrow. I don't have them for all, but I do have them for some.
Oh.
I'm sure I do.
Yeah, because of fence repairs. You gotta get done.
Necessarily that.
So the surveying company cut us a decent deal if we do all 5 of them. We do need to have some input on what we would like to do, screening, do we want to do fences, do we want to do vegetation? Lee went through and did kind of a guesstimation on what it would cost. I don't know whether you all got a copy of that?
Yeah, a while ago,
we did.
and that's when we said we're not doing those parking lots.
Oh, was that,
Well,
yeah.
that was with paving too.
Yeah, that included the paving. I think if we took the paving out, it wasn't going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, the paving was the majority of the cost.
Now, and that's exactly what he did, is put paving on the outside of these, but I'll make y'all a copy of this here in just a couple of minutes.
I think I have that form for their CRA agenda December 15th.
Oh, okay,
as well.
okay.
Madam Chair? I was up at Bay Drive Park, just north of Sea Colony today, and I don't know if anyone's been up there at the new park, but it's a county park. Beautiful park. Parking everywhere. And I think it would be a good idea to take a look up there and look at the type of material that they use for parking. And it was raining like crazy today when I was up there, and it's a solid surface, but it's pervious, and it's got shell and this kind of thing in it. And I don't see any reason why we can't use the same type of material, because it's natural, the water is going down through it. I got out of it, the only thing I got wet was I got a little bit of sand on my shoes in my car when I got back in it. The place is beautiful and it's laid out magnificently well and planned very well, and I think we could use something like that as a model to what we're trying to do. You know, it appears that we keep kicking this thing down the road about parking lots, and it's not gonna go away. In fact, it's getting worse. And, you know, we complain about the parking, but until we start addressing it, at least we can get one parking lot done, and then we can move on to the next one. But we can't just say, you know, we can't just keep saying, you know, we can't do this because we don't have the funding, we don't want to get it paved. I think we just need to make some decisions here, at least on one parking lot, and then start moving forward. Because, like I said earlier, you know, the spring is coming, the tourists are coming, we got more people coming, and the parking isn't going to get any better. So I think, you know, we need to give the direction to the manager to at least move forward and get some ideas on moving on, at least on one parking lot.
I think that's what he was asking for, right?
Okay.
Isn't
Yes.
that what you were
Okay,
asking?
all right, that's.
And if I can get with you, Commissioner, and I'm not familiar with Palm Coast, as a matter of fact, I don't like going to Beverly Beach because it's north of the.
I'll take you for a ride up there tomorrow.
He drives far enough
I
up
took
here
about
every day.
25 photos today of the facility up there. It's absolutely marvelous, right on the ocean.
I'm
Okay.
supposed to go on the 18th.
It's very
I think.
nice.
Flagler
Please,
County
uh,
uses
piggyback.
that shell materials, shell and sand. It's
Great
just
stuff.
like a very loose coquina, actually, I
It
guess.
is.
But they use that in all their parks.
It's great
And,
stuff.
That's, if you want to see examples of it, just go down to Steflik. I mean, down, all, that parking lot there is all that material. Down under the
Okay.
bridge.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice.
That's the same material that's up there.
Yeah, it's easy to maintain, I would think, anyway, because, it's,
Yeah, as long, I know our only thing was that we didn't want more cement, because that was going to
Yes.
cause other issues.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Pervious surfaces are definitely the way to go.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, we'll take a ride.
Okay, sounds good. That's it?
That's it. Thank you. Penny?
Just that, tomorrow I'm starting, to accept, petitions for your 21 municipal election. So come in tomorrow, anybody. The mayor and Commissioner Cooley's seat are up, their terms are expiring. The election this year would be on March 2nd. So the petition process, you wouldn't be fully qualified with that, you would just collect your signatures. It's 47, increased to 47 petitions have to be certified by the supervisor. And you can open up your bank account and so on after you fill out a couple of papers, but you wouldn't be fully qualified until our regular qualifying opens on January 15th and ends on January 22nd. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Night, Debbie.
She hung up a while ago.
She had enough of us. Yeah. She just took another speaker.